Hi everybody. Bonjour tout le monde. I don't know, it's so hard to read. Are you looking out for me? When you've ever said, let's wait and see. Did you really know? I don't know, I'd like to believe. And honestly, I always thought that we could be. Not waiting for the questions to answer, we run for the lead. And trust that inside us is all that we need. But honestly, I always thought that we should leave. I always saw us out in the water, we swim for the deep. We're sons and we're daughters, we're driving a dream. It'd be easier out of the race, just to close our eyes, shut the blinds, hide in this place. And we could let it go, say no to the need. Only let it go, never know what could have been. And fall asleep and never try to ever see. Forever living under the covers, so clung to the past. Hope that some others will carve out our path. But honestly, I always thought that we should leave. I always saw us out in the water, we swim for the deep. We're sons and we're daughters, we're driving a dream. We're driving a dream. The questions won't answer, we run for the lead. And trust that inside us is all that we need. Oh! Hello, everybody. Hi, GSLD 2021. Peter Katz here, and such a pleasure to be with all of you from all around the world. What an amazing, amazing thing to be a part of. So, the whole reason that I'm here right now with you is because I decided in my life that it was a good idea to take these songs that I'd written in my bedroom about my heart and get up on a stage and start playing them for people. But if you just stop for a second and think about that idea of taking these songs, these like deeply personal songs, and then walking out in front of a bunch of strangers or turning a camera on and standing in front of that camera and sharing these songs, if you really think about that idea, it's like the worst idea ever. It's like a very dumb thing to do because there's so many things that could go wrong. Little things like I could break a string or forget the words, or this bigger thing, which is that you could think that my songs suck. And these aren't just any songs. Like, these are my songs that I've put all of my heart and soul into. So every time I put myself in front of this microphone, in front of this camera on a stage, what I'm doing is I'm forcing myself to be really uncomfortable. I'm putting myself in this really vulnerable situation. But standing in front of a camera or on a stage is not the only place in life that we have the opportunity to be vulnerable and uncomfortable. In fact, life is full of those moments, right? Whether that's, trying to make a new friend, or, putting your hand up in class, or turning the camera on, or bigger things too, like maybe trying to, tell your parents that you're gay, or trying to get support, having a difficult conversation. Maybe you've been struggling with some mental health or whatever it might be. So life is full of these vulnerable moments. And our typical reaction in those moments is to not do the thing. So we're like, oh yeah, I didn't really want to do that anyways, or we don't have the conversation, or we don't try that thing that we really want to do, but we're like, no, I'm not going to do that. But this amazing thing happened in my life by putting myself in this uncomfortable situation in front of a microphone, that I started to see that there was this connection between the most vulnerable, overwhelmed, in over my head moments in my life and the most amazing experiences that I was getting to have, and the most growth and learning and people I was getting to meet. It was like uncomfortable, overwhelmed, vulnerable, amazing experiences. And I was thinking to myself, like, well, why are those two things connected? And I had this realization that it's not actually that complicated. The reason those two things are connected is because I feel vulnerable and uncomfortable because I really care about what I'm doing. And the more I care about what I'm doing, the more vulnerable and uncomfortable that I feel. But if you kind of look at that from another angle, it's actually telling you that vulnerable, uncomfortable feeling is actually a good thing, because it means that you're doing things that you care about. And so what happens when you live a life full of doing those vulnerable, uncomfortable things? Well, that's what I'm here to make an argument in favor of here tonight. I want to make an argument in favor of doing all of those vulnerable, uncomfortable things. Michelle was just talking about that, 5 minutes ago. I'm so glad he said that that vulnerability is not a bad thing. It's a good thing to be uncomfortable. So I want to make this argument, and I don't have time to go into all the stories, so I'm just going to fast forward to one key story of a really vulnerable but amazing moment in my life. So when I was in my 4th year of university, I went to a concert by an artist named Glenn Hansard. And for those of you who don't know who Glenn is, he's this amazing Irish singer-songwriter. His biggest claim to fame is he wrote the music and he stars in the movie Once. And in 2008, he actually won an Academy Award for the music that he wrote in that movie. And the most famous song is called Falling Slowly. So I went to this concert to see Glenn Hansard play. And at that time in my life, I had been playing music. I loved music. It was something that I did, but I never really thought of it as my career. I'd play these open mics, which was kind of fun, and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like, this is what I'm going to do, because when I thought about actually, following that, it just seemed like an impossibility. Like, no, that could never happen. But I went to this concert and I'm sitting there and I'm watching Glenn play, and it's just like blowing my mind. His singing, his playing, just his songs, his energy. And I just had this moment where I was like, oh, that's what I need to do with my life. I had this really clear dream that came to me. And I was just so inspired watching him that I kind of layered on top of that dream. I said, you know what? Not only is it my dream to be on a stage like Glenn Hansard is, playing his music for 1,000 people, it's my dream to be on stage with Glenn Hansard. That was the dream that came to me so clearly. Now, I would just want to take a little aside here for a second, because the song that I played for you before I said anything is a song called Driving a Dream. And I just want to make the distinction between having a dream and driving a dream, because having a dream is kind of easy, right? It came to me, I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. We all have dreams, and it's amazing that we have dreams. That's one of the beautiful things of the human spirit. But when we drive a dream, that means that we actually have to like put our hands on the steering wheel and make choices and do something about it to get towards that dream that we're trying to get to. So I was thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, I've just been playing these open mics. Glenn is like this amazing artist. How can I kind of work out these like bite-sized pieces so that I can drive towards this dream of playing with Glenn someday? And I was like, well, first thing I got to do is I got to start playing some real shows. I can't just do these open mics where I'm just playing, two songs a night. So I started booking shows all around Toronto here in Canada. And then I was doing shows, all around Ontario, the province here. And then I started doing shows across Canada and getting in my car and driving. And I got myself up to 150 shows a year. And I was practicing guitar and singing and working on songs. And I could tell you like 149 of those shows in those days were terrible. I was sleeping on floors and driving through snowstorms and not playing to a lot of people. But actually, funny side story, I once played a show in a small town here in Ontario, and there were 2 people there. And somehow, I don't know how, those 2 people got into a fight with each other, and then they took it outside to beat each other up, which was a very awkward moment for me, living my dream. But at least I was like, well, at least I'm practicing. So there were challenging times. But a couple of years of doing that, I saw that Glenn Hansard was coming back to Toronto. And I'd been working away and working on my music, and I'd actually made a few albums at that point. First album we made in my friend's laundry closet, then we made an album in the basement, and then we finally had an album that I'd made like at a proper studio. And I thought, oh man, it'd be so cool to give this album to my hero, Glenn. So I went to the show, and after the show, there's a lineup of people to talk to him. I go to like the door where the tour bus is parked, and he comes out, and people are taking selfies and all this kind of stuff. And I finally get my turn with him, and I walk up with my little album in my hand, and I'm like, Mr. Hansard, Mr. Hansard, Peter Katz here, big fan. This is my album. Please listen to it. And, this is a very vulnerable, uncomfortable moment, but he's super kind and generous. He says, thank you very much. That's supposed to be an Irish accent. It wasn't. I apologize. But he takes the album. He says thank you. He gets in his tour bus and he drives away. And I'm like, okay, cool. I did the vulnerable thing. Get back in my car, driving back and forth across Canada. I start doing shows in Europe. I once played 37 shows in 31 days in the Netherlands. There was more than one a day. And I'm just like practicing, driving towards this dream. A couple of years later, I see that Glenn Hansard is coming back to Toronto. Of course, get my tickets. I'm there early. There's like 1,000 people. It's amazing. I'm loving the whole thing. And towards the end of the show, Glenn like just stops what he's doing and he points out in the audience right at me and he says, Peter Katz. And I just freeze, and I'm like looking around thinking, there must be some other Peter Katzes here. But no, he's looking right at me, and he says, Peter Katz, your record is brilliant. Why don't you get up on this stage and play one of those brilliant songs for this crowd of people? And the crowd like goes crazy, and my friend is pushing me to the stage, and I'm like, I'm just like sweating from everywhere. I'm just like freaking out and trembling. I walk up on the stage, and he takes the guitar, the same guitar that he has from the movie, this like famous guitar. He puts it around my neck, and he says, the stage is yours. And I'm standing there, and there's like, thousands of eyes staring at me, and Glenn is right there next to me, and I'm like, hi. And I have this moment, though, where I realize I'm like, okay, hang on a second. I'm not that same shy kid who was at that open mic that first time when I was so terrified and I couldn't breathe. Like I've played like hundreds of shows at this point. So even though I'd never played to so many people and with my hero standing right there, I had been driving towards this dream and I was like, okay, I can do this. And I took a deep breath and I played my song. And I have a little 1-minute clip from that song. Check it out.
Slumber from memory will soon steal away. So I'll leave the light till you come home. I'll leave the light till you come home. I'll leave the light.
He's singing my song. Normally I listen to the crowd a little longer because it's my favorite part, but we don't have all the time in the world right now. So here's the thing. On the other side of my discomfort, of those early open mics that I used to play where I was so nervous and terrified, on the other side of my vulnerability and discomfort of playing all those shows that I played, on the other side of my vulnerability and discomfort of taking this album that I'd made and giving it to my hero, on the other side of my vulnerability and discomfort of like actually driving towards this dream, on the other side of all of that is getting to stand on a stage playing a song that I wrote in front of 1,000 people with my hero singing along. On the other side of my discomfort is this thing I realized that the more we do this discomfort thing, the better we get at it. And so I like literally had just achieved my dream. I was like, all right, what's next? I was like, well, it'd be awesome to have Glenn sing on my record. So I walked up to him, vulnerable, but I was like, Glenn, first name basis now, I'd like to think, you should sing on my record. And he came in and he sang on my record. On the other side of my discomfort is this career where I get to play shows like all around the world. This is in Toronto. This is in Switzerland. This is at Massey Hall, the most beautiful venue. This is in the Netherlands, in London. And this is what I've been doing over the last 15 months, playing to people all around the world. So all of that is on the other side of my discomfort. And you know what else is on the other side of my discomfort? This moment here right now with all of you, getting to be with you students from all around the world. This is another amazing thing that would never be happening unless I turned that camera on and allowed myself to be a little uncomfortable. But everything that I've just said to you for the last 15 minutes or so, none of this is actually about me. All of this is about you. Because this is the question that I want to leave you with. If all of that is on the other side of my discomfort, my question for you is, what's on the other side of yours? What will you discover when you do those things that kind of scare you the most? What happens when you have those conversations that you're most afraid to have, but you know in your heart that you need to have those conversations? What will you discover? What will you learn? Who will you meet? I can't make any promises about how it's all going to go, but I can promise you this, that being on this path of discomfort is the path towards our dreams. It's towards our greatest experiences and towards our greatest learning. So I'm going to leave you with a little song. And this is a song that Glenn sings on my record. I nearly just broke my guitar. It's okay. And this is a song called First of the Last to Know. And this is a song about one of the things that stops us from going after our dreams the most, unfortunately, which is when we compare ourselves to others. So this song says, the chorus is, I'm coming up my way. And it means like, I might not be the best, I might not be the worst, it doesn't really matter. I'm doing things in my own way. I'm willing to be vulnerable and uncomfortable, and I'll figure things out in time. So I'll just play you a verse and a chorus from this song. This is called First of the Last to Know. Such a pleasure to be with all of you. Everyone is breaking out, covering the ground. I can only dream of, while I watch them all go by from the corner of my eye, wondering what I'm made of and why I'm the first of the last to know. I'm coming up my way. I'm coming up my way. I'm coming up my way. All it ever does is lead me nowhere. All it ever really does is bring me down. I don't really wanna have to go there. All it ever does is lead me nowhere. All it ever really does is bring me down. I don't really wanna have to go there. All it ever does is lead me nowhere. All it ever really does is bring me down. Come now, I will take this song hands tied behind my back. With nothing and no one to help but my plan of attack. And all of this self-defeat will fall along the track. And for once in my whole life, I won't be looking back. I'm coming up my way. I'm coming up my way. I'm coming up my way. I'm coming up my